Following the news of my pregnancy, my sister-in-law's attempt to embarrass me during my husband's celebration went wrong, resulting in her being arrested and getting a divorce. I, around 30 years old, have been married to David for nearly 8 years. I'm happy with most things in our marriage, except for David's connection with his sister, Sarah, who seems to constantly bring problems into our lives. To be clear, when I first met Sarah, I had a good impression. However, my opinion quickly changed. I found her to be toxic, controlling, and very negative. Given her personality, I made a significant effort over the years to keep things pleasant with her. Years ago, when my husband was about 18, he dated one of his sister's closest friends, but they eventually ended things because he felt forced into the relationship by his sister. When he became 24 and was single, his sister suggested he should get involved with another friend of hers, but he didn't agree. She complained emotionally to their parents, saying she wanted him to marry someone she approved of, but his parents didn't pay much attention during that big argument. While David and I were getting to know each other and falling in love, his parents were very supportive, but Sarah consistently acted distant towards me. Whenever I was around, she would frequently mention David's previous girlfriends without any clear reason, pointing out how successful they were and proposing he get back in touch with them. This went on for a while. David also found this odd and would tell her to stop talking about his ex-girlfriends. It wasn't just me who noticed. After that, Sarah would get angry and begin making fun of me, stating I was envious and David shouldn't be with someone like me. Sarah would intentionally invite one of David's former partners whenever his parents invited us over for dinner, claiming she had just bumped into them that day and felt she had to politely ask them along. She doesn't follow me, but she constantly checks my social media profile since it's set to public as well. I noticed she's often the first one to look at my updates. If a man left a comment on one of my pictures, she would then complain to her brother, saying I was posting inappropriate photos of myself. David and I would actually find her accusations quite amusing. When David and I decided to move in together, she tried to convince him to break up with me, telling him I had numerous flaws as a woman and that she could locate someone much more suitable for him. Because I had always tried to be pleasant towards her, this remark truly hurt me. Unfortunately, Sarah's behavior towards me deteriorated even more after David and I got engaged. Everyone began congratulating David and me when we announced our engagement, but I noticed Sarah was rather silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, she abruptly stood up and left our celebration. Afterwards, she phoned David crying and shouting about how she didn't appreciate hearing the news at the same time as everyone else, believing she was closest to him and should have been told about his engagement before anyone else. At a later point, she sent me a message that felt almost like a threat, giving me instructions on how I should treat her brother, stating she had always been the primary woman in his life. The odd message made me feel uneasy. I saw her message but didn't reply, which I'm sure annoyed her even more. Sarah began to increasingly ignore me every time she saw me. For some reason, she remained involved in many wedding arrangements, such as my dress appointments and bridal shower, although both my future mother-in-law and David pointed out her behavior multiple times. Her objections to the wedding escalated significantly as she openly voiced her dissatisfaction with my choices. Her actions persisted. One day, Sarah overheard me discussing the main table decoration with my future mother-in-law. She immediately started ridiculing me, declaring my choice lacked elegance and explaining this was why she wished her brother had married someone more suitable. That was the moment I couldn't take it anymore, and I reacted strongly. I clearly told her she was no longer welcome at our wedding and shouted that I couldn't tolerate her constant teasing and negative comments any longer. Looking completely taken aback, as if she never expected me to stand up to her, Sarah was furious, especially because my mother-in-law also supported me. After that, Sarah contacted David, complaining that I had shamed her and insisting he needed to manage me because I was going to be his wife. David firmly stated that he agreed with my decision and that she wouldn't be welcome at the wedding unless she apologized properly. She unwillingly sent me a text message with an apology. I read it but, again, did not respond. I was already worn out from getting the wedding ready and wanted to avoid any more issues with her. Ultimately, she did attend our wedding, as I didn't want her to have a reason to complain about us later. Everyone else, including the guests, seemed fine with the light pink and pastel colors chosen for the wedding, but Sarah showed up dressed like she was at a burial service, in a long black dress and a veil. We were absolutely shocked, to say the least. Sarah went around to guests, expressing her sadness about her brother being taken by another woman. At the reception, my husband talked to Sarah about her outfit, saying she had the right to wear what she wanted and that I was too controlling. She tried to make herself look like the wrong person. When she kept causing a disturbance, his parents eventually told her she had to go. I felt very embarrassed. Since that day, I've stayed away from her. When I gave birth to my son Tom, I didn't allow Sarah to be anywhere near him. She tried to argue against it, but my husband's parents supported my decision. They agreed with my choice and fully understood why I wanted Sarah away from my baby. About 3 years ago, Sarah had a miscarriage with her partner at the time, Leo, and she was devastated by it. It was a genuinely sad time for everyone involved. Since we already had a child, David and I felt sympathetic towards her situation. We decided to be a bit softer with her after she lost the baby. We allowed her to spend time with our son Tom, so we invited her over to our place. Despite how she treated me, she's been surprisingly kind and good with our son. Initially, she seemed different, but gradually, she went back to being the way she was before. She frequently talks about how hard her life is, how nothing ever works out for her, and blames former friends or bosses for causing problems in her life. I've realized over time that she always believes she is right. She constantly tries to get others to support her by acting like the injured party and rarely admits any fault during disagreements. She decided to get married about 1.5 years ago and sent out invitations or save the dates to everyone. Since our relationship seemed better, David was surprised to find out we weren't invited. When we asked her about it, she started explaining that she wouldn't let me come because I would cause trouble at her wedding, even though I had never done anything to her. I called her and asked why she would think that. Sarah started explaining that she had intentionally worn black at our wedding, and now she was concerned I might do the same, which is why she wanted me kept away. I told David directly how calculating she was. Feeling very angry about it, David discussed it with his parents and decided to tell Sarah that they wouldn't be going to the wedding, nor would they contribute financially. This made Sarah cry, and she started blaming me for causing this problem. Leo told her she had no right to blame me, especially since she had already admitted her own mistake. Sarah, however, explained her actions by saying I should just forget about it because our wedding was ages ago. Later, she contacted me to apologize and ask for forgiveness, as her parents were still refusing to pay for her wedding. As much as I dislike admitting it, Sarah can be quite persuasive and appealing when she wants something. I decided I just wanted to move past everything and forgave her. Her wedding to Leo went smoothly. We all attended and had a good time. Less than 1 year later, Sarah showed up at our house, complaining that her marriage wasn't working out. David and I let her stay with us for several days, during which she spent countless hours complaining about Leo. They seemed to be having trouble getting pregnant, and Sarah was clearly putting all the blame on Leo. When I tried talking to Sarah about it, she firmly insisted it was all Leo's fault. When she wasn't complaining about Leo, she would become intensely focused on our lives and try to invent issues that weren't real. For example, I typically go to the gym every morning before going to work. If I'm running behind schedule, I sometimes bring my work clothes so I can finish exercising, shower, and get dressed into my professional attire. Sarah noticed this after a while and would ask lots of questions about it, like why I was taking a shower or why I needed to go to the gym at all. I didn't think much of it and would tell her I liked staying in shape and disliked going into the office feeling sweaty. She would nod her head and run her tongue over her lips. Mother-in-law was sharing a story about one of her friends who was getting divorced during our lunch. The friend left her husband and got half of his money and property after finding out he had cheated on her. Sarah suddenly interrupted her to ask my husband if he and I had signed a prenuptial agreement before our wedding. We stopped what we were doing and just looked at her. We paused, eating. She looked at my husband with anticipation, as if I wasn't even there. My husband told her directly, without holding back, that since both he and I earned a good income, we didn't think a prenup was necessary. Sarah snorted and started saying that he could be taken by surprise at any time and that there are many unfaithful people around these days. Her comments upset me, so I asked her to explain exactly what she meant. Sarah then started commenting that I must be meeting someone else, since I often carried a change of clothes with me, and that as David's sister, she felt it was her duty to warn him. Those were truly shocking things to say. Father-in-law and mother-in-law immediately stepped in to stop her from making things up and advised her not to meddle in other people's business. Without hesitating, Sarah kept insisting she was just trying to support her brother and then started joking about whether our son Tom was actually David's child, since he didn't look exactly like him. I could literally see my husband's face turn red with anger. I had never seen him this angry before. Looking Sarah directly in the eyes, he told her that she wasn't a mother yet because she didn't deserve to be one, and that any child of hers would be better off in heaven than with someone like her. Sarah's mouth dropped open in complete shock. Mother-in-law and father-in-law just watched quietly as David walked away from Sarah, saying she was a terrible person trying to spoil everything because her own life was empty. He told her she was simply a failure, spending her days doing nothing while Leo worked constantly. He repeatedly told her that she was clearly blaming others because of her own issues and that she should concentrate on her own marriage instead of accusing me and asking about prenups. Tears streaming down her face, Sarah started crying loudly. She looked to Leo, who was sitting right beside her, hoping for comfort, but he remained silent. David never behaves in such an emotional way. Eventually, she got up from her seat and rushed into the restroom. David was absolutely fuming. I gently touched his hand, and mother-in-law came over to help him calm down. Knowing how irritating she could be, I nodded when David apologized for what his sister had said about Tom. Having put up with Sarah for years, I felt a bit relieved that David defended me so openly. He apologized to Leo but completely ignored Sarah once he had calmed down. After lunch that day, we went back to having no contact with Sarah. Her behavior was affecting David as well as me. We just blocked her from everywhere she could contact us. After lunch, mother-in-law and father-in-law talked with us and agreed that Sarah had crossed a line this time. They could see how their son, who was usually calm, had become so upset after Sarah kept provoking him. We last had contact with her about 18 months ago, and things have been going smoothly since then. About 3 months ago, I found out I was expecting a baby. Since we hadn't been trying, this was quite a surprise. Adding another member to our family felt like a real blessing to David and me. We chose to announce the news on David's birthday, as we had been waiting for the right time. To celebrate David, mother-in-law and father-in-law were hosting a big party in their backyard. Our close friends and family members were invited. Sarah decided to appear after hearing about the party from other people. When we saw her, David and I were taken aback. Coming over to hug David, Sarah told him how much she had missed him and that she was sorry about their previous conversation. Taking my hand, David told his sister she needed to apologize to me because she had made accusations about who I was as a person. Sarah nodded, looked at me, and then said sorry. She mentioned she had been going to therapy for the last few months and had realized how wrongly she had treated me. Even though I didn't fully believe everything she said, I nodded because I wanted to be polite in front of everyone, especially since this was David's party. Mother-in-law and father-in-law came over to check on us and said they would ask her to leave if we felt uncomfortable, as they didn't know she was coming. David, however, didn't want to cause a fuss, so we decided to let it slide. It felt odd because Sarah was laughing and talking with everyone at the party. She said she was seeing a therapist, so I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, even though she seemed excessively cheerful, which was totally unlike her. David spoke emotionally, saying he felt like the luckiest man in the world, grateful for another year spent with a woman like me. When we were about to cut the cake, his comments made me blush with happiness, reminding me of how we felt when we first started dating years ago. I deeply appreciated that David and I were still so strongly in love. Then, David and I decided to share some wonderful news with everyone. Smiling widely, we announced we were expecting, and everyone paused for a moment before cheering with joy. My mom hurried over to hug me and began crying, while father-in-law saluted David and me, with tears running down his face. Everyone was keen to know if we had picked out names for the baby and was clearly happy for us. Sarah was the only person who seemed out of place. She looked completely shocked. Her mood shifted, and she just turned away, looking annoyed. I thought maybe she was just taking a moment to process the news, but I was a bit worried she might spoil another one of our celebrations. I got distracted by other people coming up to talk. I got up to help my in-laws with carrying some lunch items, but my parents and others urged me to stay sitting down, saying I shouldn't be moving around right now. Sarah came towards me, looking pleased, while I was just waiting for my partner to get me some food. Clara appeared, mentioning she specifically wanted to give me something to eat because she was so happy about my expecting a baby. She passed me a serving of food. As she gave me the plate, she even mentioned wanting to make amends for all the times she had acted unkindly towards me previously. I acknowledged this with a nod and a polite agreement. She then left. Just as I was about to begin eating, I luckily noticed she had included prawns on my serving. I am aware that I have a severe reaction to prawns, which made me puzzled that Clara would even offer this to me. Feeling let down, I shook my head and stood up to fetch my own meal. Michael came over just then to congratulate me on my pregnancy. Following a brief chat, he inquired why I hadn't started eating. Michael told me not to be concerned and took the plate from my grasp after I mentioned how Clara had given me prawns, likely by mistake. As he liked eating prawns, he said he could take the serving. I could simply get a new plate of food for myself. I agreed with a nod, smiled, and then faced away. Michael suddenly started to throw up and gag over the plate a few moments later, not even 5. Worried, everyone ceased eating and watched him struggle to rise from where he sat. Anxious, Ethan and Sarah rushed towards him. Michael pointed towards his plate, then towards his throat. Our eyes widened with alarm as we understood that whatever he had consumed had clearly caused him serious distress. Michael lost consciousness. Then a collective gasp of shock and fear swept through the crowd. Sarah quickly went to look closely at his food, and her expression turned to horror. She wheeled around to face me and asked if I had given her partner my plate. I confirmed with a nod. Someone called for urgent medical help amidst the commotion, and he was quickly taken to the hospital. Throughout everything, Sarah was weeping without pause and glaring fiercely in my direction. Michael had been poisoned. We were informed sometime afterwards. Realizing that the food dish was initially meant for me, I felt faint hearing this news. What Michael ate could have potentially harmed my unborn child and me. This fact is still unknown to Ethan, Ethan's mom, Ethan's dad, or my own parents, as no one understood precisely what was in the meal he consumed that led him to collapse like that. Law enforcement was called to collect samples from it. Michael is still recuperating in the medical facility as I write this. Sarah remained by his side through the night. Ethan and I are currently managing calls from family members trying to learn what occurred with Michael and who might have been responsible for poisoning him. What unfolded has deeply disturbed Ethan's mom and dad. They are staying at our place for the night because they are too scared to go back to their own home. No one understands why things suddenly went wrong when everything had been going so well. I am extremely scared to reveal to everyone that the food dish was originally intended for me and how Sarah had approached me and given it to me. If this situation turns into a formal investigation, I will be obligated to state the facts to the authorities. However, above all, I am now quite worried about what my spouse's sibling might attempt against me. I feel truly awful about the events that transpired. I do not wish to be around her, nor can I allow my children to be anywhere near her, as she clearly has no hesitation about attempting to harm me with poison. I regret passing Michael my food and potentially putting my unborn child at risk. First update. Wow. Thanks for the hundreds of comments on this post in just a short time. I would never have expected so many responses. I wrote this earlier with trembling hands. Sleep has been impossible. Despite what others say, I do feel somewhat responsible for the situation involving Michael. I should have just gotten rid of the plate. I am unsure why I allowed him to take it from me. I keep weeping thinking about his future, sensing something is not right. My partner has been staying close by, although he is unaware of what I know about his sibling. He thinks I am just concerned. I agree with the suggestion that I should sit down and have a calm discussion with everyone. However, I am uncertain if they will all believe my account. Ethan's mom and dad do have surveillance systems placed throughout the property, considering the birthday party was held in their garden area. I am certain they could review the footage to verify that Sarah did indeed offer me the plate. I plan to talk to everyone this evening, then provide another update. Second update. We had our conversation, and I am so thankful to have the most wonderful in-laws imaginable. Ethan's mom and dad are already staying here, so I sat down with Ethan and them during dinner to tell them I needed to share something important. I started by taking a deep breath, feeling the burden of the situation weigh heavily on me. Everyone listened closely. I recounted the events from the birthday gathering, explaining how Clara had given me a plate with prawns and how Michael had eaten it without meaning to, leading to him becoming ill. Their expressions of surprise and disbelief mirrored my own as I spoke. Ethan's mom and dad exchanged glances, clearly troubled. Ethan's expression shifted from confusion to anger. I continued, voicing my worries about my spouse's siblings' motives and previous efforts to harm me. Considering the potential consequences for myself and our expected baby, I felt hesitant to share this information. Since Ethan's mom is a practical woman, she immediately advised looking at the security camera tape. Given how serious the issue was, Ethan's dad nodded in agreement, though visibly troubled. Ethan remained quiet to process the startling disclosure. Watching the security footage through their camera application, the reality was undeniable. The recording shows my spouse's sibling giving me the tainted dish, and then what occurred that led to Michael's suffering. The clear evidence left no room for doubt. As the information sunk in, feelings were intense. Fully realizing his sister's harmful intentions, Ethan struggled to manage his anger. Their daughter's actions appalled Ethan's mom and dad, who also found the lengths she had gone to create trouble astonishing. Sitting in stunned silence, we attempted to understand her motivation for behaving that way. Considering how extremely serious this issue is, my in-laws have decided to send this information to law enforcement. After this revelation, Michael is the one who must formally file charges against my spouse's sibling, which means Ethan's dad and my husband will be going to see and speak with him once he has recovered. I feel like weeping whenever I think about allowing Michael to have the tainted food meant for me. I have no idea how Michael will respond. I am incredibly worried about him, which is preventing me from eating properly or getting any rest. I will inform you of any important developments. Third update. Okay everyone, I am finally back with an update. While I know it has been several weeks since I last posted, currently, I am an expectant mother going through quite a bit. To begin, she was taken into custody after the evidence was reviewed. My in-laws provided the recording to the authorities. Sarah confessed immediately and did not even challenge the accusations. She began to weep. Michael was just as shocked as we were when my husband spoke to him about what had happened. Assuring him that he would remain a member of our family no matter his decision, my husband urged him to pursue legal action against his sister, as this was such a terrible act. Once Michael got better, he not only decided to press charges, but also initiated divorce proceedings. Feeling emotional and pleading for them to forgive her, Sarah contacted Ethan's mom and dad. It turns out that Sarah is pregnant herself. She attempted to influence them by saying they ought to do this for the sake of their future grandchild, begging them to help her get released from custody. Nevertheless, Ethan's dad firmly advised her that she needed to finally take responsibility for her behavior and that they were finished enabling her. Although Ethan's mom is quite sad about what is happening with her daughter, she understands that her actions cannot be easily overlooked. The authorities found evidence she had interfered with the food intended to hurt me, which went wrong and led to harm for her husband. She has been formally accused of multiple crimes, including endangering life, causing injury, and meddling with food, thus violating its safety. Claiming this was somehow my fault anyway, Sarah had been begging Michael not to file charges against her. Thankfully, Michael is determined to see her face consequences. Her trial will commence shortly. I doubt she will escape justice this time. My son Alex and I are managing well, for everyone asking. At the moment, he is unaware of what his aunt has done. We want our son to understand and steer clear of such situations. Therefore, Ethan and I have talked, and we plan to sit down with him and tell him the reality. Having a tough but completely necessary discussion with a young child will be hard but crucial. As recommended by my physician, I also have regular scans for my pregnancy every few weeks. We want the baby to be a surprise, so we do not plan to discover their sex. Aware of what has occurred with Sarah, my parents have been rather protective towards me. They are strongly suggesting I seek counseling because they are worried this might affect my mental state while I am expecting. I agree with their perspective, as despite acting normally on the surface, I have a deep-seated fear stemming from what Sarah did to my food and now avoid consuming any food prepared outside our home or anything I did not prepare myself. Hopefully, my husband Ethan will assist me in conquering this irrational fear, as he is aware of it and stands by me completely. Fourth update. I last checked in several months back. Sarah is currently incarcerated. She was found responsible for the charges against her, although I never attended her court proceedings. From time to time, my in-laws would share how Sarah was honest in court, confessing years of envy towards me. She had always hoped one of her close friends would wed my husband. Consequently, when he began seeing me, she would constantly attempt to bother me because she never wanted someone outside their family to marry her brother. She became envious when we announced at my husband's birthday celebration that we were expecting, as she was also planning to disclose her own pregnancy news. She wished to share her happy announcement, having experienced a previous loss, but she felt we took away her chance to be the focus of attention. She became so furious at that moment. Influenced by her pregnancy hormones, she combined a small amount of rodenticide with my evening meal. She stated her intention was for me to end up requiring medical care, but she never wished to physically injure the baby or myself. She claimed she should receive a lighter sentence because she never anticipated me giving her husband my plate, and because I had, in effect, caused harm to her spouse. Naturally, the magistrate responded to her arguments. She was sent to prison and will be absent from our lives for a significant period of time. Michael is also finally free as she has now officially divorced him. We have seen him over these past months and continue to involve him in our family gatherings whenever possible. He assured me that it was not my fault at all when we spoke, and I repeatedly expressed how sorry I was for giving him my plate, admitting I had replayed the scenario repeatedly. Again and again in my mind, wishing I could have acted differently so he was never harmed. I began to weep. Knowing that Michael is recovering well now brings me happiness. As for Ethan and me, our household now includes a baby girl. Our daughter's arrival has brought warmth and light into our lives, even though reminders of the past linger. Becoming a big brother makes our son Alex feel very joyful, and he has been affectionate and protective of his younger sister. Witnessing our children bond makes us feel grateful for what we have. My parents and in-laws have provided constant support for us, helping us navigate this new stage of our lives.